We've got some more pictures before I do. Did you see that? Did you show them all? Okay, cool. Matt, come and share with us on your heart.
Yeah, I want to thank First Baptist, Michael, for giving me this opportunity to come and share with you today, guys. My name is Matt Brockway, or as the state of Texas knows me, I am inmate number 152-4735. See, I was incarcerated and locked up for my sins. The stories that I'm going to tell you today, I just want to make it perfectly clear. They're not to glorify my past life. They're not to glorify drugs or any of the alcohol and stuff that played a big part in this. I give all the glory to my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, because he picked me up through the pits of despair, through the long miles through hell that I walked. But the whole time that I was walking, Christ has got his hand right here. And all I had to simply do was grab it. Well, I didn't. I'm from a small town in Wills Point, Texas, Michael's favorite. Wills Point, Texas. I'm an only child. I went to Christian private school first through the 6th grade. So, I had a good foundation. Me and Jesus, we knew each other. You know what I'm saying? Church on Wednesdays, church on Sundays, and memorized scriptures. And me and God, we knew each other. We knew each other. I transitioned then to public schools in the 7th grade. But living in a small town, some of you guys and women can probably relate. We rode back roads, we drank, we smoked weed. There's really nothing there for kids my age at the time to do but those things. So given the opportunity to finally go to college, I passed, thought I could make it working a 9 to 5. Really wasn't what I wanted to do, but at least I was responsible enough to know then at that age that I was going to mess it up. So I didn't go. But lo and behold, I waited till I was 21 years old to go to college. How do y'all think that worked out for me? A lot of freshmen and stuff, not able to buy alcohol, but I could. So I partied, did more drugs, barely passed. It's a wonder I was even able to go to school. But I got out, and then after I graduated college, worked a couple of odd-end jobs, and then I met this lovely lady. Her name is methamphetamine. Some of us may know family, some of us may know friends. Some of us personally may have even struggled with the addiction of something. But for me, it was methamphetamine. I would have sold my life to keep it with me all the time. So I'm going along there, using drugs, quit my job. I'd found out that I could sell just enough methamphetamine to do what I wanted to do when I wanted to do it and still maintain my high. During my addiction, I meet a lady, we'll call her Lisa. And this is what Lisa does. This is how she maintains. She sells methamphetamine, like big quantities of it. So here I am with a perfect match with a young lady that sells methamphetamine. I've got a gram-a-day habit that I'm trying to maintain. And anyway, she and I have relations, and she ends up getting pregnant through all of this. And God steps in a pretty comical way here, and as he does through my testimony. You see, I'm in Emory at this point, selling a little bit of narcotics to try to maintain some money in my pocket and maintain my high. And we're killing some time there. And of course, I've got several thousands of dollars on me, several grams of methamphetamine, and just basically a drug dealer's dream in the cab of my pickup. And we're killing some time just waiting for somebody to get there. And this buddy of mine, we're in Alco, and he's looking for some socks, of all things. Tries to get him some no-show socks. And we get ready to leave because we're running late. And we get up to the front of the cash register there. There's 6 people in line, 1 register open. So I tell him, I was like, look, man, just let's put those back. Let's go. We'll come back and we'll get these. So he ducks off around the corner, comes back around the aisle without the socks, so I thought. Walk out the front door, loss prevention grabs him by the shoulder. They search my vehicle. I go to county jail for the first time over a 99-cent pair of socks. They searched my vehicle, gave me all sorts of possession charges, intent to deliver, manufacturing. It was just a whole list of felonies. So laying there in county, I'm thinking, you idiot. But all the while, this is God reaching his hand, reaching his hand, and all I had to do was grab it. So I didn't. I get out on bond, keep going along with what I'm doing, and me and Lisa are together still doing what we're doing. Well, in such a short period later, she and I get arrested together. Same thing. Possession, intent, manufacture, deliver, another long list of felonies. But I was so fresh off of getting probation that my paperwork hadn't even hit Austin yet. So when Kaufman County runs my background, I'm okay to be bonded out. Well, Lisa wasn't so fortunate. She was going to be held there because she had so many felony convictions that they were going to send her away for her time. Little did I know it was the best thing and perfect thing that could have ever happened to then I found out my unborn son. You see, we found out she was pregnant just a week before she was locked up. My son, who sits here today with me, was born in Waco in a penitentiary because his mother was incarcerated, as was I. But see, you don't understand. If she wouldn't have been incarcerated or locked up for her crimes, this little boy may not have ever even been born. We were living a life of addiction that if he would have been born addicted, or maybe not even been born at all. But today we're here with me, and we'll tell more about him a little bit later on. So I get locked up again, bounce back and forth. Anyways, in such a short manner of time, I've caught 5 felony convictions in less than a year dealing with drugs and messing with drugs. So the state of Texas comes at me and offers me a 25-year sentence. I'm thinking, man, that's 25 years. They said, but you can go to this facility to get help. It's called Substance Abuse Felony Probation. It's in a unit down in Winsboro. It's a 9-month unit sentence. So which one do you guys think I took? 9 months. 9 months. So I took it, and I'm not trying to really get sober at the time that I thought. I just wanted to do my time and get back out on the streets, right? Well, all the while, God's got his hand, just reaching down to me. As broken as I was, just broken as I was. And so I'm on this unit. I had drifted so far away from God and God's Word. Remember, I went to a Christian private school. Me and God, we used to talk to each other. We had a relationship at a young age. But drugs and alcohol took me way away from him, as it does a lot of other people. See, the thing about addiction, it's not prejudice. It doesn't care if you're white, black, rich, poor. It affects all of us. And it affected me. Sitting there on that unit, none of the units in TDC have air conditioning. So on Sundays, you could go to church because there's air conditioning. So I was signing up for every church class that I could get just to get out of the pod to get a little relief from the heat. And I'm there on Sunday mornings, and I'm looking around, watching people that are raising their hands. They're sharing their testimony. Some of them were getting saved. It was powerful. It was just really, really cool to be part of something. And I'm in a 65-man dorm to where it's just loud. And I assure you, a lot of the guys in there that I was with weren't there because they were singing too loud in church. You know what I'm saying? Some of these people were some pretty hardened criminals that I was with and surrounded by. And evil just is rampant in those dorms. But you know what? Christ is there too. Christ is there. A lot of people find Christ in prison. A lot of them leave him at that east gate when they leave too. You know what I'm saying? So sitting there in my bunk, just wanting to get out to my son, just wanting something about me needed to change. I had done drugs for 17 years of my life, done it my way. I was what we called a sobriety binger, I guess. I'd get sober 2 or 3 days, and I'd be at the dope man's house bragging about how good I was doing. You know what I'm saying? That's the kind of person that I was. And it didn't work out for me very well. So sitting in my dorm and in my bunk, I've got a Gideon's Bible. Whoever is a Gideon in here, thank you so much for the service that you do. Because if you can reach one person with that Bible that you give out to the prisons and that you can give out to anywhere, well, I got my hands on one. And I had opened to the book of Psalms, and I remember it just like it was the other day, and I was really just reading the Bible to get out of my mind the noise and the chaos of exactly where I was. And I cried out to God. I said, God, I've lived my life this way for so long, and look where it's gotten me. I said, I realize now that all I had to do was grab your hand, and you could pull me up from where I was. And I cried out to God, I will try it your way, but if this doesn't work, I am going to be so mad at you. Well, March 23rd of 2008, I feel like I truly rededicated my life to Christ and have been living it His way ever since. So I get out of prison and really struggling because I'm scared to death. I've never lived life this sober this long, and was scared to death of what it had in store for me. And I worked, raised my son. I went back home of an evening because there was just, I'm one bad choice, a mistake from ending up right back where I just came from, or worse off. So, needless to say, I get comfortable, and I'm going to try me some dating. But I don't drink anymore, so the bar scene's out. I'm 30 years old. I've got a son. Church hadn't really crossed my mind. So I tried online dating. Anybody tried any online dating? Has anybody? Come on now, let's be honest. Surely I'm not the only guy that has done some online dating, right? Okay. Yeah, that works. Well, if any of you have that aren't raising your hands, you'll know that I went on a couple of dates, and, the profile picture of the lady that I met had to have been taken 10 years before. Nothing against any of those ladies or anything, but, it was completely a misrepresentation of what I was doing. But, I didn't have any luck. And then I see Elena, who's my wife now. I see Elena, and beautiful profile pic, and, because really on there, that's all you really got to go off of. You can't really judge it based on whether or not they're telling the truth in their profile pic, because recovering drug addict, I didn't put in mine either. So I figured that was kind of a deal breaker. Needed to wait for a few days before I dropped that one. So we end up swapping phone numbers. We text for a couple of weeks and decide we're going to finally meet. So we met at Heartlines in Greenville. She was living in Cumbie at the time, and I was living in Wills Point, and decided we'd finally meet. So I walk in, and I kid you not, I open the door, and I see, and at the time she was blonde. This beautiful blonde, and I'm looking at the profile pic on my phone. No, I walk out. I'm not going back in there. She's far too beautiful. I was like, what is she going to see in me? What do I have to offer her? But hold up, and I walked in, introduced myself. We stayed there till the place closed down. Now, she casually drank. No big deal for me. It was a deal breaker, but who am I to say, look, I'm an addict, don't drink. I wish that I maybe could casually do so, but I don't want to find out like this. I can't. So we meet, we date, we kick it off. She meets my son. Things are going really, really well. And I feel like it's kind of time that maybe I need to pull that skeleton out of the closet that I hadn't been just real honest with. So we're sitting at her house one afternoon, and, look, I really like the way things are going. You've met my son. I just feel like I need to let you know about this before we continue any further. So I go to explaining to her who I am, show her my offender ID, and the more I talk, the more her mouth opens. There were several times I had to reach over and close that for her a few times. And I said, okay, now that that's out, does that change how you feel about me? Silence. She's like, but you don't understand, Matt. I was like, okay, listen, lay it on me. Let's just cut this thing off. It ain't going to work. I understand, no problem. She said, I run a background check on you before we even met. Good job for you, honey. Good job. Thank you for doing that. She said, but you don't have a record. What? Last time I checked, it's 3 pages long. So she goes, yeah, I ran. You don't have a record. Well, let's check this out. So we pull up the TDC website, and we're looking along there, and she types in Matt Brockway. I go, ooh, my first name is James. Let's type that name in here. But in step a God moment, because my wife, she confided in me. She said, Matt, if I would have seen that before we even met that night, we wouldn't have met. 3 months later, I married that lady. We've been married 5 years. We have our oldest son, Jamie. We have Brooke, and we have Evan. Miss Sue and some of you that work in the nursery have seen us toting them around. We have a full plate. Our plate is very full. But Elaine and I get married, and so I explained to her, after that she quits drinking. She supports me in not being an addict, not contributing to that, not it being a trigger for me or anything. And all the while, though, Jamie's biological mother is still locked up. She's still incarcerated. So Jamie's 3 years old now and has only seen her the day, he has only seen her, and she has only seen him the day he was born. So she gets out and wants to be super mom. Well, listen, if you want to be a mom, you need to be all the way in, or you need to be all the way out. You're not going to come in and out of my son's life like that. And so aside from how I felt, Elaine and I, we sought the help of a child psychologist and said, look, I know what I want to do, but what is in the best interest of my son? And she said the exact things that I just told you. If she's going to be a mom, she needs to be all the way in or all the way out. So the great state of Texas and the judicial system that we have, I end up having to give him over for 48-hour weekend visits to a lady that he's never even met. Scared to death, he's 3 years old. And through that, they're going through that trust versus mistrust. Some of you guys in elementary education and stuff or know about that developmental stage that I didn't know anything about. But it's the trust versus mistrust. Well, there was nothing I could do. I had to hand him over kicking and screaming at a McDonald's parking lot for several weekends. Well, Facebook will tell you a lot of things about a person. And she was airing her dirty laundry out on Facebook. I mean, same thing that she was doing, selling drugs, doing drugs. All of this I know is going on while my son is at these visitations. And I'm begging and pleading with the judicial system, you've got to do something. I mean, just weeks prior, a Molotov cocktail almost burnt the house down. And unfortunately, they said, until something happens, there's nothing we can do. Never once did my faith falter. I knew that God had a plan. I just didn't know what it was. A lot of us are like that. So I noticed that his mother's involved in a relationship. Well, I'm going to find out who's around my son. Well, I come to find out that this gentleman is a sex offender. So immediately, I'm back in court. Hey, you're not going to have this guy around my son, ever. It'll be over my dead body before it ever happens again. They issued an injunction, said, hey, listen, you can date this guy, don't have him around when he's at visitation. Well, I believed it about as much as the paper was worth that it was written on. So a couple of visitations go, and he comes back a different little boy. And I didn't know if it was maybe just because, it's all new to him. This lady's a stranger. He's having to spend the night, 2 nights with somebody he doesn't even know. But he would come and he would tell my wife, it's like, Mommy, I have a secret. And he would never tell us what it was. So I did my own private investigating work, and I found out that he was around my son. I hired a private investigator. We got pictures of it, him there while my son was there, and we took them straight to the court, issued an injunction, permanent stop of those visitations. My son comes home one Sunday after that, and he finally told us that secret. For the entire time that my son had been going over on scheduled visitations to see his biological mother, her boyfriend had been sexually molesting and sodomizing my 3-year-old son. And as a lot of men and women and parents sit in these aisles today, regardless of how strong your faith in Jesus Christ is, the flesh will get a hold of you. The flesh will get a hold of you, and you will want and think about doing things that just aren't right. And the thought crossed my mind that long. I today can stand here and honestly say that I forgive that man because God once forgave me. My son now is a thriving 6-year-old Mrs. Cruz class that I truly believe that she was handpicked to educate my son just because of the godly woman that she is. And I thank God every day for that. But the whole time I went through that, my faith never faltered. I believed solely and totally in Jesus Christ that He would see me through this. But little did I know it was exactly what needed to happen for termination of rights and an adoption for my wife to adopt our oldest son. She is still currently locked up and incarcerated on some more felony dope charges. And I ask that you guys would continue to pray for her. She's 40 years old and may not ever see the light of day again. She has had her 5th felony conviction in a very short period of time. State of Texas has a 3 strikes, you're out. I think the first offer they're going to offer her is about 75 years. So I just ask that you would pray for her through that. But my wife wasn't a believer until about, how long ago, honey? About 3 years ago. She was a Catholic. She was the one of those that wanted to know where the dinosaurs were in the Bible. How come they're not there? I don't see anything about mosquitoes. Where's mosquitoes? They're not there. So we had a couple that sat down and fellowshiped and ministered to us 2 nights a week and fielded all these crazy questions my wife had. And she was the person that said, listen, that's great. I think it's wonderful that you're a Christian. She said, but I'm not going to come sit on these pews and be a hypocrite because I don't believe. Boy, if she only knew there's a church full of them. But I finally got her, and she dove into the book of Revelations one night, and it scared her to death. And she's like, how can you not be afraid? Maybe because I'm saved, I'm saved. So the book of Revelation scared her, and one night taking our son to Awana. You guys familiar with Awana? Kind of like the Boy Scouts of little kids for Jesus. We took Jamie, and Lena walked in, and this anxiety just hit her like nothing else. And one of the ladies grabbed her and said, listen, this is the devil fighting against you. This is spiritual warfare, and if there's ever a time that you needed Christ, it's right now. So she said the sinner's prayer right there one night at Awana's and totally did a 180. Elena and I, as we grew with our walk in faith in Christ, we were really afraid that, maybe, what if you get too Jesus for me? You know what I'm saying? What if I don't like you anymore? But if anything, our relationship and our marriage is one thing that we continue to put first. And I haven't been back to the Texas Department of Criminal Justice except to speak to inmates. I kept asking how God could use somebody as broken as me. I'm a drug addict. I'm a felon. I've shot people. I've been shot. I've robbed people. I was the guy that 7 years ago you saw me coming down the street. You're crossing the other side to not have to look at me. That's just the kind of lifestyle I live. So I'm trying to become obedient to Christ because he called me the entire time I was in my using, just reaching out that hand. And I never was obedient, so I figured I got to figure out some way that I can glorify God and be used as an instrument. I didn't really know what it was that I could do, so I'm sitting at Home Depot one day, and I haven't seen anybody since I've been released from prison. A gentleman walks out of the restroom, and it's one of those, I know you, but I don't know whys. I sat there for a minute. I was like, who is that guy? And it dawned on me. So I ran him down, and his wife, they were at the Greenville Home Depot, and the unit I was on was in Winsboro. I said, hey, listen, are you a prison guard at the Texas Department of Criminal Justice? Yeah, why? No, listen, man, it's nothing like that. I said I wanted to share with you the good news that some of us make it. Some of us do. But the recidivism rate, I think, for drug offenders is like 80, 85%. Some of them are going to go back through prison another time, even if it's for a short stint. Not this guy. I had all I wanted of it. 19 months is all that I ever wanted of it. So I'm thinking, God, was that a sign? I see a prison guard. There was a guard on the unit that I was on while locked up. God has to all but send me a text for me to get it. You know what I'm saying? Or hit me over the head with it. So I thought about it. I was like, okay, maybe this is what I need to do. Well, make a long story short, my wife and I, we go to the bottom unit, the Buster Cole. Anytime they'll let us in the front doors. I go back to the unit that I was on. I'm not used to seeing this many people dressed in civilian clothes to me giving my testimony, and a lot of times they're all wearing white. But it's amazing that it doesn't take very much to get in through the east gate to wear white. But if you want to come in in clothes like I've got on, that you've got on, there's a lot of political red tape that you've got to cut through. But where I got the advantage is they really like to inspire stories of hope, people that actually make it. You know what? I made it. I've been clean and sober since March 23rd of 2008. Continue to put Christ right and first in everything that I do. I mean, everything that I do. I try to raise my family, my wife, and all of my kids. We take them along for those Washateria ministry things. It's so wonderful that you build that foundation. I'm not saying they won't ever walk that path that I did, because I had that foundation too. But going back to the unit that I was on, I had led an open invitation to over 300 men. And it was one of the most powerful things I've ever been a part of. It's more powerful to me than any birth of any three of my children. Because that day, after hearing the story that I just told you guys, and a little longer, because different crowd, those are my people, you know what I'm saying? Different crowd, I was able to hold an open invitation, and over 175 men raised their hand and said, you know what, I ain't been doing it right. Or you know what, I haven't been doing it right, or never did, or I want Christ in my life. That is the most powerful thing I have ever been a part of in my life. So for all of you that are sitting out there in the pews thinking, I'm too broken, what can I do for Christ? If God can use someone as broken as I was, He can use anybody in this room. It's time to start being obedient for what Christ has called us to do. It is to be disciples of men. Spread the good news, spread the good word. If you will be obedient to what He is calling you to do, He will bless you in all kinds of ways. Some of you may have family members. Somebody may have loved ones. Some of you may have even be struggling through the same things that I walked through. Listen, I'm here to tell you there's hope. You know, there's hope. And all of these 12-step programs and stuff, yeah, I think they're great. I took one step. I gave my life and sold it out completely and fully to my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Without any of that other stuff, it's not going to work. I'm just going to tell you that right now. It's not going to work. But I have my beautiful wife. I was going to leave some time for her. She's not big in speaking in front of people. But we're going to have an open invitation, I believe, a little bit later on this morning. If you guys want to talk to me, or if you haven't been being obedient to what Christ has called you to do, today's the day. Today's the day. Step out on that aisle, because at the end of the day, it only matters what one person thinks about you. Right? It's not because of your friend. What are they going to say? Listen, I don't know that Bible inside and out. All I have is my testimony. Sometimes you might be the only Bible anybody ever sees. Live your life to the fullest, proclaiming the name of Christ in all that you do, and everything is fine. I got a rap sheet and a record so long they won't even let me around the office supply cabinet at work. But you know what? Through Christ, I run and operate and manage a $12 million a year company to where I get to put Christ first and talk about Him in everything that I do. Don't settle for Mrs. Right Now. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people think that they're so broken that this is all they'll be able to contend with. My wife's an aeronautical engineer that's never done a drug in her life. What she sees in me, I don't know. But I'm sure glad she does. I'm sure glad she does. But listen, the open invitation is going to start. I believe Michael's going to do that for us. If you guys need to talk to me, if you guys need to make that decision today, listen, don't walk out of here, and I'm going to be as real as be. If you walk out of here unsaved and get hit by a bus, guess what? You're going to hell. Don't let today take too long. If you need to speak with me, I'll be down here up front. Step out on this aisle if I can pray for you guys. If there's anything that I can do to tell you about my broken story and how there's hope, you guys come see me here in front, okay? Thank you, guys.